Right, good evening to everybody. Thanks for clicking on to the Monday edition of Vogan's European Outlook from Holland, or the Netherlands, should I say. Off and on showers, plenty of sunshine at times as well through this morning. Very, very heavy rain, persistent rain during the overnight period. I was parked up at the Eurotunnel in Calais. But yeah, look at this here. This is off the GFS, and we've got a system within the tropics that is going to move through the Bahamas and into southeastern Florida. This, in fact, is Tropical Storm Nicole, as you can see here at 45 miles per hour, sustained winds. And if we click on this and then we'll look at the cone, you can see that the National Hurricane Center is actually predicting that this thing becomes a hurricane within the very warm waters surrounding the Bahamas and expected to move. It looks as if close to possibly just north of Fort Lauderdale, possibly as a hurricane as well, by the way. And yeah, I know it's not completely out of the ordinary to see that during the month of November. By no means is it unusual, but nonetheless, it is interesting to see what's taking place here in the late season with the tropics, and of course the Manchurian Oscillation. Provided favourable conditions and taken into consideration the very warm waters within this region, with an atmosphere favourable, you tend to find things develop. So I certainly think that is quite a noteworthy event. So we could have a November hurricane strike on the southeast of Florida. What time frame would that actually be? That would be through Wednesday evening, early. It looks as if early Thursday morning, according to the NHC, we could see a hurricane landfall in Florida. So interesting stuff. Looking at the latest GFS chart here, you can see the overview indicates an area of low pressure well to the west of the UK, but we've got a system and an associated frontal boundary ahead of that system. So we've got more wind and rain moving in to the pattern. We've had a fair old amount of rainfall, low countries near continent, as well as across many portions of the British Isles, particularly the south and the southeast, has seen its fair share of rain in recent days, and we are going to see more rain associated with this latest frontal system as we go through the course of this evening and into tomorrow. What I want to point out actually is the interesting nature of this upcoming week's weather, because what happens is we've got an area of high pressure that's centered over the Balkan region here of Europe. But notice here, as I play through the loop here, what happens is keep an eye on that area of high pressure over the southeast of Europe. It kind of then starts to build more westwards, and as heights, of course, rise to the southwest of the British Isles, we're essentially going to start to push the weather fronts, areas of low pressure, a little bit further west of the British Isles. And of course, with this setup here, with high to the east, low to the west, we've got a corridor of very, very mild winds coming up all the way from the Azores into the British Isles. We're going to see temperatures rise quite significantly as we go through, particularly the second half of this week. Notice here that we've got quite a lot of disturbed weather actually to the west of the continent here. We've got a lot of messy conditions here associated with low pressure that is encompassing a large swathe of the North Atlantic here. But essentially what's going to happen is we're going to see this blocking area of high pressure focused a little bit more towards the southwest, towards Iberia, and therefore the heaviest rainfalls will transfer more towards the west of the British Isles and north over the course of late week and into the weekend. We could see some significant amounts of rainfall across the West Highlands, for example, with this type of scenario. But strong winds coming in from the southwest, sunshine, temperatures rising into the high teens. Noteworthy considering that we're approaching at this stage the middle portion of November. But what happens is quite interesting. Look at how far south, by the way, this area of low pressure is here. So we've got quite a lot of weather all the way down south of the Azores. So we've got quite the trough, quite the deep trough actually over the North Atlantic. versus an area of high pressure over Europe here. And that is a pretty classic positive North Atlantic oscillation. Now, as we play through this loop, see what happens. We've got the next frontal system moving towards the British Isles. All the while, we're starting to push the area of high pressure up towards the northeast of Europe here. So this is the latter half of the upcoming weekend. And then on in the next week, yes, we see the return of more wind and rain. Notable 947 millibars, not that far away, by the way. So we need to keep an eye on stormy conditions possible towards the middle portion of the month. But look at the area of high pressure over northeastern portions of Europe here. And then as we play through the loop, more wind, rain, very disturbed conditions indeed. But it's becoming evident that high pressure is trying to build somewhat to the north of the continent extending up towards Greenland. What would this suggest? It would suggest that we're going to start to see the jet stream getting forced south. We're going to see more systems getting forced south. And therefore we could start to see a little bit of a turn in the upper level atmosphere as we go towards the next week. So through next week, so beyond this work week at the moment, through next week and then towards the following weekend, this could all be a downstream effect of the MJO, the tropics, so on and so forth. And it could start to become a little bit more interesting as we go forward here. Start to see areas of low pressure getting suppressed to the south as high pressure starts to try and build further north here. So are we starting to see a subtle change? That is the good question, of course, and we'll need to keep an eye on that. This is a fairly short video, but I want to end by showing you actually some of my travels in the last few days here. So up based to the north of Inverness, this was day Saturday, so this was day one of my work week, which took me from home down towards Glasgow, and then actually took me into what do you call it, Yorkshire. So if we play through, I apologise, actually I'm getting lost here. So this is actually today. Sorry, yeah, I did have all intents and purposes to show you my travels, but of course I have to muck the video up. So indeed, I did arrive yesterday in Calais. I crossed over from Folkestone on the Eurotunnel. I got stuck at Calais because I go through what you call CIVIP, which is like a vet's checks of the content, especially if you've got meat, so fish or venison, which is what I was carrying, goes through a checking process, so they check the paperwork and whatnot, and the source of that meat. But lo and behold, I was delayed there up until late last night, so I stayed in a truck park nearby to the Eurotunnel, and then today I travelled the corridor through to Belgium, across around Ghent and Antwerp, and into the Netherlands, where I delivered to a place called W&G Brinkhorst Eddy in De Klomp, and now I am parked up and waiting to get reloaded tomorrow morning with, I believe, frozen veg to go up to Shropshire and also Welshpool. So that is the plan for tomorrow. So it's just to give you a rough idea what I'm getting up to, and a kind of visual of my travels as I go on. So yeah, I hope that is of interest to you. I'll try and get that a little bit more organized. I'm going to show you in better detail at some point. So, but anyway, that's it for today. Hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. I'll be back again hopefully tomorrow with more. Bye for now.